Welcome to New Earth Studios, Love Now by Alex Roseman. We are here in the heart of the wilderness of Dubai. From our beautiful New Earth Café, the Conscious Eatery, where we'll be bringing you conscious conversations with our very next guest. Please do your best to click the subscription button so you can see us evolve and grow and ultimately show up in a community near you. Thank you. Welcome to our lovely New Earth Cafe, Binita.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much.
It's lovely to have you here. Look, this is to be as authentic as you can possibly feel. We're not in a studio. We're just in a cafe having a coffee.
Yes.
Well, you're going to have a cup of tea in a minute. I'm having my infamous matcha.
Okay.
But so we do it as a kind of, it's chilled. Like whatever flows out of us will be meant to be.
Yes.
For what people are meant to hear and listen to when they're just sort of getting on their day.
Beautiful rainy day.
On this beautiful, isn't it?
Suspicious, actually.
Yes, it makes me feel a bit like England, on those sunny, rainy days.
But we know it's not going to last long, so that's the upside to
That's
this.
absolutely the upside. And I'm going for a walk and I'm having this rain on me and then we've got the trees around. This is not Dubai.
No.
We're not in a desert anywhere. This
Just
is
a reminder, Alex, of
Yes.
what home could be like.
So thankful. So thankful. Well, I'm a guy who likes the sun. That's why I think we're here, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. It's in my DNA.
Yeah.
The sun is what I need.
It's what you need. It's what we all need, really, vitamin D.
Yes.
Actually, during the whole COVID time, that was what was, really what it showed is a deficiency that people didn't have vitamin D in their blood. They didn't have enough sun,
Absolutely.
So it really showed where are we deficient? Where can we draw our energy from? Well, obviously, the beautiful power of what the sun entails.
Completely. It's even just, okay, we weren't allowed to go out, but just stepping out in your balcony and just having the sun on you, just for me, it changes my mood completely, immediately. And it's just taking that deep breath in, thinking of the sun, it just energizes you. It's so powerful.
Absolutely. You're reminding us back into our yoga classes that we used to do together. So Binita was our yoga instructor for a little while. And then I've now integrated this into my everyday routine.
I know.
So you are with me every morning when I'm doing the yoga, everything yoga I possibly can do. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
But Alex, that it's not just on the mat. It's something that you practice outside the mat completely, which is what you're doing. And as a teacher, that's what I always want to pass on when I'm teaching somebody that, okay, the physical aspect is just one small part. It's embody the whole philosophy and then live accordingly, That's what you guys do. And I love what you've created here. New Earth Café is my favorite place for a coffee. Those treat days when I come down for a flat white, it's like, okay.
I feel you. But, I love it because I had a chat with somebody recently about, what's our degree of vices. And he said to me, I go for, he said he goes to something called Pickle, like a fast food place.
Oh, yes.
And he goes, they do a really good vegan burger. And he goes, and he says, come on, it's one of my vices, And I said, well, it's funny that we say that because even for me, that would be a big cheat because there's gluten and there's all sorts of stuff in it. As much as it's vegan, it's not about being just vegan. It's about being healthy. Thank you, my man. And so when I realized that, it's like creating a buffer between ourselves and our sort of amygdala that would look to seek for like sugar and things like this. So I put a buffer between myself and that by not having many vices at all. In fact, what would I say my vice is? Because I have such a high standard of myself now that
Discipline.
my vice, my vice would be to eat within the 16-hour window.
Yes.
And not just eat anything. I mean, I still eat, like in the New Earth Cafe, we don't do sugar. There's no gluten here. So there's nothing I could eat here. But if I ate outside the 16-hour window, then that'd be my oof.
Yeah.
So then if that goes, then if that then goes, and the next thing goes, the next thing goes. So there's a buffer between myself and just letting loose completely.
Yes, the ripple effect.
Yes.
Right?
So it's interesting.
But it's also know that it's okay to treat yourself. It's okay to once in a while do something that makes you feel good as well. And let's not forget, we live in a world where we're surrounded by people. We are social beings. So sometimes we might have to have that piece of chocolate for a birthday, We might have to have that little glass of champagne just to celebrate, and it's absolutely okay. We're not living in that cave yet. Far in the Himalayas.
Well, I know that's
I'm going
somewhere
to.
that you like to go to, isn't it?
One day.
the one day island.
Yes.
So tell us, like, what is it you would love to share? Because every time we did our yoga, there was a part of it that you want to share the philosophy and things like this. So if this was going to be the most fantastic podcast you'd ever done, what would that look like?
Gosh, Alex, there's so much to talk about. I'm passionate about yoga, especially because it's helped me so much, and it's still a journey I'm on. And I was thinking about it. I was thinking about what can we talk about on this podcast, and
Let
what
me
it
help you a
kind
bit.
of stems down to is community. I was thinking about yoga in the modern world, and where did I start my journey? And it was because I wanted to be part of a community. I saw a bunch of people going in a hall with their yoga mats, and they all walked out looking zen. And I was wondering why does it make them feel like that? I was really inquisitive, and this is back in my corporate days when life was just way too busy to sit on a mat and chant Om. That's just not me. I'd rather be playing basketball.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I was gifted a class, and it changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. It gave me that sense of belonging to something, to a community that keeps on growing and keeps on changing as well. And that's also why I love being here in Barari, because there is a community and we all share this common passion, whether it's through food, whether it's through painting, enjoying the gardens, or yoga. You just find those connections. And it's incredible that whilst we're doing this podcast, I have a student from a school I was teaching at who I met when she was 4 years old, and she's sitting here at 12 years old, and just to see the journey that she's gone through, incredible.
That's crazy, serendipitous moment. Just before you jump on a podcast, there's
Yes.
somebody like, oh my God,
Yes.
it's beautiful because that
Yes.
leaves an impact. What were you, were you teaching yoga? Is that what you were
Yes,
teaching
I was
then?
teaching yoga in a school, kids yoga, and she had just come from, I think it was, which country was it? Peru, I believe. As a little girl, 4-year-old, and her mum had enrolled her in a class, after school activity. And she walked in crying, and we were sitting in a circle, and I asked her to come and sit right next to me, and I just held her hand. And that's what's important for me, Alex, that connection, whether it's through the human touch or whether it's just sitting there next to each other, being part of something bigger, being part of the macrocosm, even though we are the microcosm. At the end of the day, we're all the same. And it's about easing people through their journey. It was incredible. I will never forget that day when I first met her.
The lady just over there, little girl over there.
The girl, yes.
Really left an impact on you, eh?
It really did. Because I often question, as a teacher, I'm always hard on myself. I always strive to be better and better and better. And every time a new term starts in school, and I think to myself, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? Is it time for a change? And I go in there with my first class, teaching the kids, and I walk out thinking, oh my God, I'm buzzing, because what I receive back is tenfold. That energy you receive back is incredible. And that's the same for adult classes. It's the same whether I'm teaching a group class, whether I'm teaching individuals. You just walk away buzzing because there's an exchange happening. When I was teaching Julia and you, often when our class finished, we still go on and have a discussion because there's so much to learn. And that's what it's all about. Just that sense of community, learning from each other, growing spiritually.
Well, that's through, as you said, connection and community.
Yes.
This is something that we feel is so essential if we were to alleviate humanity's evolving consciousness, that it's done through communities. It's not done through relying on a government institute that will then govern our health and spirituality. Of course, that 3D system we call it, the 3D paradigm, where, there's rules and structures and everybody, basically they feel that they need to govern people because people are not able to self-govern themselves.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. It's been over history that, not many people know how to do that. But a community, when we take responsibility, we then benefit of that as a collective.
Yes.
Because then we are not waiting for an outsider. We actually are coming together and seeing where there are areas to improve. And rather than sort of blame or shift it onto somebody else, we can take ownership and responsibility for it. And with that comes a sense of accomplishment, a sense of learning, sense of growth that, imprints us all and onto the next generation. So, in New Earth, we really sense this whole, local communities branching out to the global communities like we're doing right now. We're a local community. I'm bringing in people from here that's going out into the global hemisphere, So with that in mind, in yoga, how do you see yoga impacting communities in a way that will maybe lead to that?
When you talk about community, I just had a thought that during COVID, many people suffered from loneliness, and as a result, a lot of classes started online as well. So I know through yoga, I reached out to students, and it wasn't again, I need an income and I need to continue teaching, even though it's not face to face. I just thought, hey, you know what? Everybody's stuck at home. Let's just go online. Let's meet. Let's have a quick catch up. Let's just do a session together, just for the fun of it, and to keep that connection going. And it's the same when you are within a community. I see a lot of loneliness around me. We tend to be busy people. It's very rare for you to ask somebody and ask them, what are you up to? For them to say, oh, doing nothing. That's just not a normal response. But what's wrong with doing nothing? Absolutely nothing. And the difference between doing nothing and being lonely is quite vast, right? Being lonely is not having that community. Being lonely is not being able to reach out to the right people. Being lonely is not being able to discuss any issues you're going through. The difference that a community makes is you have somebody to speak to. For me, it's always been through yoga. It doesn't mean I have to go to a yoga studio. It used to be something that I did a long time ago. I evolve as a yoga teacher, as a yoga practitioner. I evolve. My connection is through yoga. Yoga's taught me to become a lot more compassionate. I'm veering always more towards the meditation side of it. And you were the first person I approached when I wanted to run a meditation course, because I kept on hearing from people, oh, they're stressed, they're feeling lonely, they don't really know the community. And I remember coming up to you, I think it was last year, and I said, hey, Alex, I have an idea of running a meditation course. What do you think? And I was hesitating because, again, the perfectionist in me is I'm not ready to teach a meditation course. I've run classes, but not a 1-month course. You turned around and you said, yeah, let's do it. And I think within a couple of days, we organized it, the flyers were out, and it went ahead. It just happened so quickly. But you know what, Alex? Through that, there were a group of us who met every morning for 15 minutes where I taught them how to practice meditation. And then through that group, the chat has evolved. They asked me, can you run a retreat for us? Because they know I love traveling to Africa and I run retreats. So it's like, okay, maybe I'm ready to run another retreat. And the retreat happened. So it is, again, that ripple effect. You just start an idea and it carries on to something much bigger. And then more introductions are done through yoga for me, because that's my link to everything around me. I tend to meet people who are on the same wavelength as well, which is bizarre because I don't ask for it. For example, when I came down to meet you today, I didn't think, I'm going to meet somebody from the yoga community. I wasn't even planning for this podcast. I'm a perfectionist, I'm a planner. The instinct was, oh, I should ask Alex, what are we talking about today? It's like, hey, you know what? Just go with the flow. It's cool. Because you are a cool person.
Hey, oh. Thank you so much for that. I mean, if people who know me hear your story, they'll be like, oh, he did the same for me too. I do have this ability to kind of push people off a cliff, and I go, you'll be fine. You'll grow your wings. Don't worry. No, it doesn't work for everybody. There are positives and negatives to this strategy. I understand that, but it's something that I experienced, and that's got me to where I am today because I keep jumping, and I do have some scars from a few bumps and falls.
Absolutely.
But I know I've survived it because I've trusted into a higher power. Said, either way, whatever you're going to be challenged, you're going to be supported. But when you sit there playing it in your head, it fills time and space in your head, and you're not allowing any space for something new until you've acted on that impulse or thought. And when I watch people who I feel like, of course you're capable of doing it. Otherwise you wouldn't have come to me in the first place. So I get it.
Yeah.
Here's a little nudge, and it was just like, here we go. And it's led to your retreats, and it's led to the next thing. It's led to the next thing. And it's beautiful to see this, this unfolding like a, beautiful lotus.
Yes.
And that's what it is. It's a matter of taking action when we can live in our heads and fantasize about what could be. But here we are. Now you've taken the leap and jumped on this podcast without any preparation. Who needs preparation when you're having a conversation just, about whatever it is? I mean, it's going to be unique to you at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whatever you feel like you want to put into the space and just talk about, this is what we can go as deep as you want to go.
Okay. I met somebody yesterday. This is when you talked about, just trying something new out. And she's doing certain exams.
Yeah.
And she had an exam date, and she said, I'm not sure if I'm ready for this. I'm a bit nervous. I said to her, just have courage. You have that knowledge. When you're passionate about something, you have that knowledge, so you can do it. And she looked surprised, and she said, of course, you're so right, thank you. And I had to take a step back and think, where did that come from? Because I often have days when I'm doubting as well. And yet here I am encouraging somebody, telling them they have that knowledge. And I realized I didn't start studying about yoga last year. It's been going on for more than 10 years. It's something I keep on learning about, doing deep studies, having beautiful discussions about yoga scriptures. So the knowledge is in there, and it's just having the capability of sharing it. The fear, Alex, is somebody will say, no, what you're saying is wrong. That's not right. But it's my perspective on what I've understood about yoga.
Absolutely. Everything's, at the end of the day, is subjective.
Yes.
And we're doing our best to get as objective as we possibly can in the reality that we live in. And everybody's carrying whatever viewpoints, and there is no such thing as wrong anyway.
Yeah.
What we deemed as wrong 100 years ago turns out to be right. And then maybe in another 100 years, that what was right turns out to be wrong.
Exactly.
So it's just about what's matter in the moment. Everything is, an experiment.
Yes.
Like a mad scientist, rather than just a theory, and mathematicians are, contemplating ideas. They're actually go into the lab and try it out. And yes, they might lose some eyebrows, but through the action, you'll get the confirmation in this reality and go, yes and no. And this invention could lead to great things, but it could also lead to negative things. So whatever the course is, it's just a matter of exploring and having a human experience and not being held back by the self-judgment.
Yes.
Because what may not work for you, or what does work for you, does something else for somebody else. So at the end of the day, it's just about, our new Earth emblem on the wall. It's all the colors, because we're not living in a black and white world. It's colorful.
Yes.
And we all have our own experiences and stories and conditions that we're projecting.
Yeah.
So why not just go for it, and just see what happens and get the feedback. And this feedback, as I've noticed, is keeps edging me towards what it is I'm truly here to do. Exactly. But if I didn't take that first step like you did in that corporate world and go into yoga, you would have still been there, probably going, your soul was sort of going, okay, we might have missed this roundabout, but we'll get
Yes.
on to the next one, maybe in a year, 2, 5, 10 years. But it's just depending on when you're willing to get off that roundabout
Yeah.
and take that path, right? Like you did 10 years ago, and it's led you to where you are. It's not all been sunshine and rainbows, I'm sure.
No.
It's been met with challenge, but when you're going with yourself and your spirit, you look at opportunities life gives you not so harshly because you made a decision. So there's nobody else to blame. It's not like corporate industry to blame. It's yourself to take responsibility for what comes. And with that comes growth and responsibility, like the youngsters you've met along the way.
It does, Alex, and we are programmed to do what is deemed normal by society. We are programmed to learn, to go to school, to go to college, university, do the right thing, and then go and get a job that pays you well, that brings in lots of money. For a lot of people, that works. They are very happy doing what they do. And for some, it just doesn't feel right. And that's how I felt. Part of me was all about climbing that corporate ladder. And I just didn't fit into that environment. And I remember very clearly one of my managers said to me, and she was a female manager, and she called me up one day and she said, you need to act a little bit more masculine. You need to just, be a bit louder. You need to come out after work with the guys and the girls to the pub and, socialize. And Alex, it felt like I was going against everything that I am. I was really, really torn. But something amazing happened to me around that time. I went on a Vipassana course, which is a 12-day silent retreat, and you just learn to meditate. I think I must have been 25 back then. It's the toughest thing I've done in my life because you can't bring any writing material, you cannot read, and you can't talk to anyone except for your teacher when you absolutely need to. I cried for the first 3 days because I was left with my own thoughts. And those thoughts just started coming in every direction. And I thought, what am I doing here? I've taken 12 days off from my allocated holidays to spend at a center where I'm just supposed to meditate. What is meditation? I have no idea. And I walked away from it thinking I'm never ever doing this again. And I've been reflecting a lot on what happened such a long time ago. Reflecting on my journey, where did this all start? And the weird thing is, I've always been drawn to Eastern philosophy. Yes, I'm a born Hindu, but that never attracted me, that path never was attractive to me. I had lots of questions which weren't being answered. But I remember picking up a book by the Dalai Lama. Went to a library, and that's the first book I picked up. And I just read it. And I was drawn to this philosophy of living a balanced life, living a compassionate life for yourself and for others. And I remember just parking it away. But the seed was planted. And then when yoga finally came to my life, that seed started growing, right? I eventually moved to Dubai, and I was given a choice to join the corporate world because that's what I'm used to doing. It's very comfortable. I know exactly what I'm going to do. The money comes, excellent. I'm helping myself, I'm helping others, I'm helping my partner. Or do I take 6 months off and do nothing? That was very, very scary. I've worked since I was 16. To take time off 6 months, no way. But I risked it. And now, honest to God, on the last day of the 6 months, I was about to call a recruitment company. And my yoga teacher sent me a message saying, he's running a teacher training course. It's like, oh, okay, how long is that going to be? 18 months, he said. It's like, oh my God, I've given myself just 6 months off. Do I now take another 18 months off? Is this the right thing to do?
So that would make it 24 months.
Yes.
Which is quite funny because when you did your silent meditation, that was 12 days, right?
Yes.
Doubled.
Yes.
There's
Oh,
20.
yes. My goodness. Absolutely.
So 24 months. You see how the investment comes back to you?
Oh, yes.
Multiplied?
Absolutely. I hadn't thought about that, but thank you. But, I was lucky. I had a partner who was very supportive, and he said, okay, just do it. Why not? It was incredible. Typically when you start doing yoga, you always do it from the posture side of the philosophy. You'll typically go to a yoga studio and you'll lay out your mat and you'll do all these postures known as asanas, and that's it. So behind that sits hundreds and hundreds of years of philosophy, which I just wasn't aware about. And it delves into psychology. The more I study, the more I realize, okay, why? Why do we need to understand psychology? Where is this all leading to? It's just the mind. We are just so drawn to information from the five senses, and our mind then decides from the information we received how we're going to react to it. But the trick is to quieten the mind. When you quieten the mind, something amazing starts to happen. There's this deep sense of connection to everything around you. I remember walking into the cafe the first time when it was open, and the colors, so earthy, the greenery. And you just take a deep breath in. It's like, oh, it's a place I can come to and just be. Just be. And Alex, is about that connection. We are running around like headless chicken, trying to keep up with everything, trying to keep up with your next door neighbor, trying to keep up with your Instagram posts. When do we just stop and feel that deep connection? Because when that deep connection happens, you truly feel compassion for everything around you, from the plants to the trees to the insects to the birds to humans. I see suffering. The first question I ask when somebody new wants to do yoga is why? Why do you want to do it? If they say to me, I want to get fit, it's like, I'm not the right teacher for you. If they say to me, I'm stressed, okay, let's do this. And that's 90% of students. Everybody's living so stressful these days. And they've forgotten how to breathe, stop, and just be.
I mean, it's beautiful. Because obviously where you came from, it's easier now from this perspective as you stepped out of the corporate world. And I've been in that world myself. And I have to say, for people who may be watching this who, I don't know, who's still getting on a tube, going to the office, it feels so alien to me because it's been I think it's been 14 years so when I stepped out of that world, when I became an actor. And just went, you know what, I'm just going to become an actor and I'm not living for the weekends anymore. And I know it's going to be met with struggles, but at least I'm being creative and letting my soul to just express itself. But for those who are going a million miles an hour, what's so scary is the reason they're going a million miles an hour is because they're running from themselves, right? So we know that to stop so suddenly would be like a train that's going at 100 miles an hour, just stopping suddenly. And just everybody inside will just fling to the front. So there is that fear that actually stopping will create this, like what then? There's no momentum to carry me because in a sense they need that momentum to carry them from this drudgery of waking up each day, because if they don't have that momentum behind them, they have to ask themselves, what am I doing this for? Because they've had it from day one that they actually not even sure why. But if they stop, the scary thing is they have to confront where they actually are. And then that means looking within, and that means taking responsibilities. That actually means loving parts of ourselves that we have run from all that time. And I know yoga is a great form. That's why people in the corporate world take it up, as a sort of break it up a little bit, to slow down the train rather than just stopping it drastically. That can then lead them to branch into more in their connection with themselves, to go, like a flower opening up, is this really what I want to be doing? But they're more gentle. They can actually start to ease into maybe another direction.
Absolutely. It's and that's why when I first did the Vipassana meditation course, that's why I cried for 3 days, because it was that drudgery. It was my routine has been taken away from me, who am I? What is this all about? All those questions were all about, what am I doing? Am I going to be doing the same job for the next 40, 50 years of my life? Is that what the purpose of my life is? And the question of who am I came up. Who really am I? But nobody was there to answer those questions, because I think that's something you discover yourself. And as a 25-year-old, that's a lot of questions, unanswered questions, which you slowly, if you delve into it, if you try and understand it, you get to it. You know, how many people do you know who say they just do not know what their purpose in life is? And that makes me sad. It makes me sad when I know somebody's doing something day in, day out, because they don't like the idea of not doing anything. They don't like the thoughts that come to them when they're not doing anything. So it's better just to be kept busy, right? And I just didn't want to be like that.
Why does it make you sad that somebody's there in that place?
Because then I don't believe that they are really living their purpose. It's kind of a wasted life in a way, no? It's you already to be born is such a struggle. It's such a blessing. And then to start living life by the book. Who's written that book? Humans. You don't have to live by that book. It's okay to take a step back. When you have that realization that, is this something I really want to do? It's okay to take that step back, take some time off, and really try and understand, okay, what am I meant to be doing? It's okay. I wish I had done that many, many years ago, because even though I had all those experiences, I still felt the right thing to do was to support my family, to work, to try and have a successful career. But it was that life-changing moment when I moved to Dubai that I thought, okay, I can breathe. I'm far away from the place I grew up. I'm far away from, as much as I love my family, from family and friends who know me as they knew me. I can be something completely different. So that's what I would want people to do, is to explore that question, who am I? What is my purpose? And you can ask others. You can ask them, what is your purpose? And, the purpose of your life today may be different from what it is going to be tomorrow. We should be evolving. Spiritually, mentally, physically, we should be evolving.
I agree in everything you say there, that, if we're not growing, we're dying, as Tony Robbins coined it as.
Yes.
And there is that sense of feeling it. And when you're in that world, though, like everything, there is as many positives as there are negatives in the corporate world, or those who are working. They're also, getting to escape from having to confront those very challenging questions. It's like, I remember reading The Power of Now, I think it was by Eckhart Tolle,
Yes.
about the voice in my head. And then I was like, there's a voice in my head. Oh, yeah. Even though I knew there was, but then I really noticed it was there, and I couldn't get rid of the blooming voice.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my God, how do I get rid of... I wish I didn't know it was there. So sometimes, like, I think somebody mentioned it once, that just a little bit of consciousness is quite dangerous.
Yes.
Because you have just enough to know that your life is in the shitter, let's say, but not enough consciousness to actually do anything about it.
Yes.
So you're then just aware enough to go, oh no. And that can be quite dangerous, that some people can check out because they just don't know, they don't have the tools and they don't know what to do with it. Like Eckhart Tolle went through his own situation until he has his awakening. So it does have its downfalls, stepping into that world. And in the corporate world, it's nice to be distracted. Like we can see it's sad, but it's also the other side. Like living in that world, you don't have to go through the struggle to get to that place within yourself that is your expansive self. Because when you go into that place, it feels like we ask the universe to test us. And
Yes.
suddenly people like us have bigger tests than most who are in the corporate world, where their test is sort of, it's comfortable. What tests are there? Your boss is something, your client does something. It's quite small because you're small in the sense of what kind of person you're looking to become. When you're looking to become a big person, as in, how vast am I actually, is what you're asking when you say, who am I? It's the vastness of the universe is how big we are.
Yes.
But when we're in the job, we are in the comfort of staying comfortable, which
Yes.
is great, because sometimes when we're going on our expansive journey, those moments of, God, going back to that 9 to 5 would be quite pleasing right now, because it's a sense of security. We don't have to confront those parts about ourselves, and that for us is so alluring, rather than, this is not an easy journey.
It's not, Alex, and I still think about it, believe it or not. I still have those moments where I think maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to go and do something regular and update my CV.
Yeah.
And then I think, okay, so what can I do now? Because I've been out of that world for, 12, 13 years. What can I do? And then I go back to the comfort of yoga, because it could be something as silly as, going to teach a class on that particular day. And I come out of it happy. It's like, yes, this is my place. This is my place, because I'm still learning. Why am I listening to my head, which is telling me, no, B, just go and do the normal things. Go and do the safe thing, which is go to work at 8, finish at 5, 5 days or 6 days a week. That's the right thing to do. And then my heart's screaming, saying, no, keep on going. It's a challenge. It is a challenge, but keep on going. The questions that come up, Alex, though, right? When you're sitting there in meditation, when you've finished your meditation, and sometimes it's like, oh my God, I need guidance. I need guidance from somebody who's been on this journey longer than me. That's scary. It's scary, and it's easy to give up on that and fall back to comfort.
That's what it is. It's conforming, isn't it? Because comfort is very alluring. Look, for me, I do enjoy my comfort. But when there's a purpose bigger than yourself, you're willing to give up that comfort when you know there's a purpose bigger than yourself. So those who want to climb Mount Everest or one mountain, Kilimanjaro, whatever it might be, they know they're going to have to sacrifice comfort for the sake of the climb, because they pre-framed it, they've lowered their expectations. It's not about being comfortable going up there, but it's about maybe having comfortable shoes and things like this. But the lodgings or whatever we're going to expect, okay. But then when you're stepping into like going somewhere, we have these different expectations. Well, I'm expecting it to be comfortable here, and I'm expecting it. So it's managing our expectations as we go on this journey and going, like when I became an actor, I was living in a penthouse in London at the time. I was doing my IT recruitment. But giving it up, I knew that I wasn't going to have a penthouse apartment. I was going to have to downgrade, which was sleeping on a friend's couch. So from one place to the next, but I didn't mind it because I knew there was going to be some sacrifices. And I felt so free. I felt liberated from having to upkeep this comfortable lifestyle at the cost of my own soul, and we all get caught into that. Of course, why would we not? If we've all grown up out of scarcity and in survival, that getting to the place of comfort is what we're all striving for.
Yes.
Because in survival, we have a purpose to survive. But then once we're comfortable, which we're most comfortable we've ever been, then purpose is not so much about surviving. Then we are wondering to ourselves, well, what is it all about then?
Yes.
And now we're having that shift of the old Earth into the new Earth, that it's not about surviving that we've been doing for 4 billion years. And people who keep watching this podcast probably see that I repeat myself, but I repeat it until I understand it myself.
Yeah.
That the new Earth is to shift from the amygdala.
Yes.
I call it the idiot self.
Yes.
And moving into our higher selves, which is then going into this spirit realm and going, wow, how do I materialize the spiritual into this realm? Where we're not working for the sake of working just to live for the sake of living. Yeah. We're actually identifying who we truly are. Like you asked, like, who am I? And when we step into that, we go, wow, yes. We are like magicians. We are like the gods they talk about. We are able to manifest into this realm and spread this message now far and wide. And we can create coffee shops, and we can create self-love stores and
experiences.
Yeah, we can teach and open people's minds and hearts. I mean, the feedback to see somebody else opening up their own genius is then you recognizing yourself in the other person, and it's just waking up everybody else, because then it kind of makes you feel like there's a sense of security for the next generation when we start opening up people's potential to their own higher selves. Yeah. That they can go, well, now you know it, now you can spread that seed.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh, You know, you kind of feel like, okay, like passing the baton, you know, to the next generation. And it feels like this is what we're stepping into. This new earth is all about.
It is, and it's also a struggle. So during COVID, planes were not flying. You didn't find cars on the road. So the levels of pollution came down, remember? And everybody was talking about, yes, actually, the earth needs a break. And this is the break that the earth deserves. You know, we're going to do things differently. All these amazing ideas, thoughts, amazing, great. What did we do? Go back into our old habits. There are more flights flying now than there were before 2020. Everybody's mad for travel. We've forgotten all of that. Yes, we remember the good old days of COVID when everybody was stuck home, but we forgot about the changes we wanted to make for ourselves. So it's so easy to fall back into that comfort zone. And I have those reminders every day. I wake up. There are days when I've struggled, right? I wake up and it could be a little bit of anxiety that I'm sensing. And what do I say to myself? I say, okay, do I have food for today? Yes, I do. Do I have shelter for today? Yes, I do. All is well. I'm grateful. That's it. If I'm out and about and I see something which I think, oh, you know, I need that, whether it's new clothes, anything material. Oh, I need that. It's like, okay, do you really need it? And it's understanding, okay, what impact will it make by me buying this? If it's an item of fashion, then the thought goes to, well, do I really need this shirt? Do I have enough shirts at home? And what is the journey that this shirt has made to get to the store? Who are the people that are employed to make this shirt? It's crazy, Alex. All these thoughts come in my mind, and then it's taking a deep breath in and saying, actually, I don't need it.
You know, those people, they don't need to be paid anyway. So positives and negatives, right?
But this is what I'm trying to say. It's a struggle. You know, it's when you try and live the
you're being
right
aware.
way.
You're becoming conscious of every action.
Your mind can go crazy at times. But you said something I've forgotten. It's I think you said about spreading the word. Had a very interesting experience on my last retreat. So the reason why I go to Africa and run my retreats in Africa is a lot of people are scared of going to Africa because of what they've seen or heard, mainly through the media. And I want to take them to a place where I feel deeply connected to. So in December, we went to Kenya. And at the end of the retreat, during dinner, I asked everyone, can you share something that you enjoyed, an experience? And one of my students said to me, I believe there's something bigger than us out there. She's not spiritual, she's not religious, lovely person. But for her to have that realization, my heart just melted for her. Because when you're in that vastness, all you see is just plains, great plains, and you see the animal world at its most natural, raw. You realize you're connected to this. This is where you've come from. It's an incredible experience, and I'm lucky because I get to experience it every time I go back, every time. And it gives me that energy until my next trip.
You know, you stumbled on something there because, and for people who might be interested, obviously they can find you on this beautiful podcast we're doing. You know, those who were back in the days, the tribes, we see them as somehow prehistoric thinking, but what they were aware of was the universal laws in play. That a lot of people, I had a conversation yesterday with a psychologist that was pretty heated because once you open your eyes and see the universal laws in play, there's no undeniable. It's like this is why I'm putting the book together, to put all of these sort of the evidence of what I've seen and experienced, because it's just not even about trying to prove it to anybody. It's about knowing the truth and just going, but I see it, I witness it on a day-to-day basis, that the universe is operating in such divine intelligence that once we shift our perspective, it's all around us. But when you're in the Sahara Desert or the wilderness, you get to see this energy play out in animals because they're more receptive, and you see the predator and prey in action. You can see the duality.
Yes.
There's no sadness in what is, because if the predator doesn't eat, then it becomes, it dies, and vice versa. It becomes this. It's a synergy.
Circle of life.
You can't then, judge and say, oh, that's terrible, they shouldn't be doing that. Then one would overpopulate and one would die. So there's a balance. And it's just recognizing that balance in our own lives. But how it changed, like when we see this universal law play, the synchronicities are, I'm in awe. I'm still going in a deep dive of this world, and
Yes.
I've got another program. This year is all about learning from my mentor, Dr. John D. Martini. Big shout out to him. This is like the year of absorbing a lot of his teachings, because he's spent 50 years deep diving into this world of looking at the universal laws. He sounds like somebody out of The Simpsons. Like a hell, that kind of like proper, like, I can't remember that character, the scientist dude. But he has such passion that you can't help but listen and absorb the information he's kind of compiled that saves you a lot of time. He summarizes so much of that stuff. So I guess I'm in a stage of summarizing his summary in the book at the moment, of watching myself being the idiot and noticing that, but actually seeing the divine plan of things. But in the moment I felt like, it feels like it's just random.
Yes.
But when you step back a bit, you go, oh, that happened because that happened. That needed to happen because it led me to this. And then you start to see all the missing pieces. That there was nothing missing at all.
Yes.
So when you see somebody who notices it because they're looking at this sort of vastness, and there's something there that they can't see with their own eyes, but it's there.
Exactly.
They can't quite comprehend it. And we're getting to this point now of where it's spreading into the Western mind, that people are starting to see this divine hand at play. And it's not a matter of trying to prove it to anybody. It's just, once we understand that it's a universal law that we're actually all governed by, then we all have something in common. We can never escape it.
No.
And the corporate world is a sense of, I can have the pleasure without the pain,
Yes.
And it's impossible. You can't have one without the other, like predator and prey. It's just, they come together.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's beautiful when we see this vastness, as you described. It's the majestic nature of it all.
Yes, it's just when you notice that something's awakened in a person, and it's such a nice feeling for them. It's beautiful. And listen, just because most of us, or a lot of us, work in the corporate world, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that. I admire some amazing people. I follow some amazing people through their journey in the corporate world. Indra Noori, who was CEO of PepsiCo, her journey was incredible. What she did was incredible. So some of us are just meant to be in that role.
Well, we need it. I mean, we're
things
benefiting from the corporate world, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we need everybody to be playing their role. It's not about, at the end of the day, they will play it until they don't longer need it and move on. And then you have other people who will fill the vacuum, and they'll do it until they need to move on, and so forth and so forth.
Exactly. But
we all benefit.
we don't have to struggle through it. That's what I was trying to say. If I had come across yoga much, much earlier and incorporated into my life, it would have helped me through it. It would not have taken me to a different path. I still believe that I'm meant to be on this path.
No.
For somehow it would have made me go forcefully on this path, which is uncomfortable, challenging, joyful, and huge.
Well, quite interestingly, if you found yoga earlier, it may have supported you in your role, and you might still be there.
Yes.
If you integrated it and just managed it and went, oh, okay. Again, there's no...
You don't know, right?
You just sort of think, well, that was your journey for a reason. And though I can see that sometimes you're just like, I've chosen a tough road here, rather than, as I say, choose the road less traveled.
Yes.
A really great book by Scott Peck, actually. But you decided to choose that road, and just as I have too, because there is something about choosing that path and, going to new places where others haven't walked. I mean, even when I was younger, I always wanted to go some path like on Earth that no one else had been to before. I wanted to be the first,
Yes.
And as you go and grow up, you realize there's no place like that on Earth, really, that no one hasn't already been. But there are places within the spiritual realm, within ourselves, that nobody else has done.
Yes.
Because it's our journey.
Yes.
And that is the only original place that nobody's ever walked, is within ourselves.
Yes.
So once we go into that place and go, if I want to walk the shoe nobody else has walked, I better walk my own path.
For sure. You may need that support. You may need that helping hand. You may need that shove to go and do it. The push up the backside. But it's
That's
nice.
what I'm here for.
Yeah. Good. I know. But yes, okay, let's say if yoga had come to me earlier and I would have incorporated it with my corporate life, I feel it would have taught me to understand myself better.
Yep.
And to say it's okay not to be masculine in a corporate world. Why should I be so masculine? This is who I am. I mean, since that comment that was made, the feedback that was given to me by my manager, I kind of toughened up. I changed who I was. And my yoga teacher spotted it, and he came to me after a class and he said, I just need you to kind of soften up and just take some time just to meditate, breathe. And that's all he said. He just walked off, and I thought, well, that's bizarre. He doesn't know me. How dare he? He's just a teacher I come to learn my postures. Alex, many years later, I heard those words again, and I realized this is what he meant. This is what he meant. So, I continued doing my classes. I continued my day job. But I still believe everything is meant to happen the way it was written by the universe. And that's why I'm here. Still doing this. Still learning about myself. Still discovering so much about myself. And I learn more on the days when I'm really struggling. Because, hey, when life is good, there's no thought, right? There's no complaints. There's no thinking. Everything is fine. It's on the days when you struggle that the questions come up. Why? What's going on? Why am I feeling this way? And it's about delving deep into it. For me, the strange thing is when I start feeling that way, I get up and go and walk in the gardens. Nature for me has a powerful healing energy. Honestly, I walk, I know the trees. I notice the flowers, every little minute things I notice. And I come home buzzing. And I realized, okay, this is my fix. I feel better. Now I'm going to address why was I feeling like that? What's the root cause of me struggling on that day with something? What can I do about it? Okay, something I can do about it, I'll do it. There's nothing I can do about it. It's out of my control. It's a thought that's come about the future that I have no control over. I let it go. I just let it go because this is, again, my mind. Just working up all these scenarios based on something I might have heard, said, seen, tasted, or smelt. But without that, I am just a soul, right? And it's about always remaining connected to that essence, that gold essence, that purity that we're born with.
Nature certainly reminds us of that.
Oh gosh, so much. And it doesn't have to be greenery. It could be desert, You could go and just walk over the dunes. And there's that sense of emptiness when you're walking in the dunes, when there's no noise, it's just you. It's awesome. It's awesome.
You're on this journey at the moment, and you've mentioned things like, what you're dealing with, and sometimes you have your struggles. What is you've given up the world of corporate. Where are you moving towards? What is your place of where you feel you're struggling? What's the reason you're struggling? You're going through your own metamorphosis.
Yes.
What does that place look like when you finally become that butterfly, let's say?
Yes.
Even though we're always going to go through that metamorphosis. But what does that look like for you where you feel like, that's me?
So often when we used to be in class, when I used to come over and teach, I used to say to you that I have this vision of me sitting in a cave, right?
You can do that anytime.
And I think I even showed you an image, which was exactly what I had visualized. So life would be perfect then, Alex, if you've got this wonderful cave where all your basic needs are met, and you can just sit there and meditate, do your yoga, understand yoga, no distractions, no human interactions. Life is good. The struggle comes when you're living in a world that you're very much part of. I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm an aunt, I'm many things, I'm many roles. And I'm living here. I'm living here in Dubai. I am a social being. And you are constantly flooded with thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts, conversations. It could be something as silly as I take a walk around my beloved gardens and I see rubbish. And then it's like, oh my God, come on, who's thrown that? Can we not have some kind of respect for the environment? I need to find out who's thrown it and, let people know not to pollute where we're living. And it's like, okay, just breathe. It's okay. It's things like watching cars being, the ignition left on, and you can just smell the fumes of the petrol. Now I can understand when the weather's hot and the AC needs to be on, right? But we have beautiful weather now, and I see trucks who are just waiting to get their permits, and they leave their engine on. It's like, oh, should I go and tell them to just switch off the engines because this is polluting this beautiful earth? It's like, no. It's okay. They've done it for a reason. You don't need to get involved. So it's those struggles, Alex. It can be as small as that to bigger things. And then I have to remind myself that I just do my best, right? Things start at home first. What can I do for myself, for my family, for this beautiful earth? That's enough. I don't need to go and change it tomorrow. It's those small things I can do for myself which are enough.
I feel you. I guess it seems like there's a part of you that just wants to control.
Yes.
And then you, rather than, because it's like, for example, seeing the rubbish, you could also just pick it up.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you do at times. Yeah. I know I do when I see it, and I just think to myself, you know what? It's just part of our evolution. It's a part of this world we live in. That, we're thankful that things come in packages that we can just pick up, open, and eat. For those. So yes, there is a byproduct of our capitalism. That things. They're byproducts of it. Thankfully, you're not living in a dump site, but it depending on your standards or of why that rubbish triggers that response from you, that you feel like you need to control the situation and the person, and that's led you into that. It can be quite a flood for you when somebody else could see it and just go, oh, pick it up, or just go, oh, don't care.
How nice.
Yeah, and move on with their life. Neither being wrong or right. And like the ignition, you could even go up and just turn it off yourself, take the keys, and all of these things that are in our control, but we have choices. When you're in your corporate job, what was your role?
Gosh, so business analyst, and then I became a project manager working on IT projects, which I loved.
Of course.
Absolutely loved.
Because you were in charge of people and telling them what to...
Exactly.
So there you are, pulling yourself out. So that form, so that part of you, that corporate world, it still lives in you in the sense of like you want to ultimately live out that form still, but that you can't because you're not able to, because you're not project managing the world, obviously.
Yes.
But it's a part of you maybe wants to play that out in some way because it's an aspect of you that maybe you left behind there, and you're not able to, I don't know, act it out now. But maybe there is a way of you being able to do that.
And it's about letting go. It's letting go of control. It's letting go of expectations. Listen, what I had visualized for myself is not what's happened at all. I did this mind mapping years and years ago. It's like, yep. When I'm in my 40s, this is what I want. This is what I want, and maybe 10% of that has become true. The rest is very different, and I think about it. I think about why, and again, it's letting go. that's my lesson that I need to learn in this lifetime, is to let go and to surrender to the divine. And every time I do that, there's a sense of peace. It's not easy, but I get this peace which I didn't have before when I was busy planning everything. You know, it was crazy. I used to plan what I'm going to wear for the week ahead. Every Sunday night, my wardrobe would have all my suits lined up from Monday to Friday. That's how crazy it got. It got so crazy that if you are 5 minutes late, even if I'm meeting a friend, I'd be quite upset. If you're 15 minutes late, I will leave. That's when I realized this is no good. Okay, fine. When you're in the corporate world, you do things by time, but outside the office, it's okay. There's a reason why people are running late. It's okay. And that's what I love about Dubai as well. If the electrician is coming around and saying, I'll be there in an hour, you know you've got to have the whole afternoon off. And it's okay. And I love that, Alex, because I have that internal conversation. It's like, oh, look how much you've changed. Look at how cool you are about it. You wouldn't have been before. You've been calling him every 10 minutes.
This idea of, like you said, this I've been there myself, and I think a lot of people have. You know, this idea of controlling, you know, an experience because somehow it's your time, and we feel like, you know, our time is running out. There's a scarcity of it, and when there's a scarce resource of our time, we then create situations that we then waste our time by worrying about how scarce it is.
Yes.
And then we sabotage ourselves and we get ourselves stressed and worked up. And then we just wasted our time where we could have just used that time to read or be productive whilst we wait for the gas man. But it's quite interesting when you mentioned the cave, because it seems like that your cave is a sense of escapism, because if your view is my cave, you know, basically I've got a hole and it's all good. And I think to myself, nah, it can't all be good, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you're in your cave, there's got to be the other side of it, right? Because if you feel like there's some place that's just going to be amazing, then it's like a tactic to take you away from the moment, because you feel like I can always go there. So it's this because it's like, if you have this idea that the cave, then you always have to keep practicing this art of letting go here. Otherwise, you just escape and go to the cave. So if you dissolve the cave and see, actually, let me look at the drawbacks here. It can't all be good living in a cave by myself and not seeing anybody.
Why not?
Well, because everything has a positive and negative side. If you were in your cave by yourself, say for a year, you haven't seen anybody, what do you think the drawbacks might be?
I don't see any drawbacks. What I see is a deep, deep delving into that question, who am I? Listen, the more I study yoga, the more I've understood the purpose, right? The purpose is, look, the end goal is liberation. I'm nowhere near that, Alex. I believe in reincarnation. I have many, many, many lives to go through to even reach that state. But
Why do you believe that?
that I have many lives to go.
Why do you feel you can't get it in this lifetime?
Because I've understood the journey of the masters prior to me who've gone through this. I've understood the difficulties they've gone through. And there's still so much I need to learn. I just feel that there is a lot more that I need to learn, but I'm learning. And that's why the idea of a cave, that eventually, when I get to a certain age, when I've lived my life as much as I need to, I can take that little retreat and finally have that time to close my eyes, to close my senses, and be with the divine, to have that connection.
But you can do that right now.
I can. I can go into it. I can dip into it and out, right? I haven't mastered meditation. It's a long journey. Mastering meditation is, you put me in this cafe at its busiest period, and I may physically be here, but I'm somewhere else. I'm completely somewhere else. I don't even know how to describe it to you, because I just get a glimpse of it sometimes when I'm in deep meditation. but I'm not able to maintain that connection. So that's what I want to try and experience, to have that longer duration of just what does that feel like, you know? And in Vipassana, which is very nice, the reason why they don't allow you to talk to each other is they don't want you to have a discussion after your meditation on what did you experience, because my experience will be completely different to yours. And then you'll start questioning your experience. Like, oh, well, I didn't notice that. I didn't feel that. Am I doing it wrong? So that's why the idea of the cave is I have nothing else but to delve deep inside.
So it seems like you're looking for space from everything and anyone to allow you to connect and live in the world within yourself.
Eventually, yes.
But then that could be seen as, death. So ultimately your
Yes.
definition is basically the cave to go.
Yeah.
Because then it could be seen that meditation then is used as escapism rather than integration. Because when we're looking to somewhere to escape to, it's because we're not willing to confront what it is we're actually facing here in our life now. And I've learned this recently, like meditation, people, depending on how you're using it, you're either using it to escape or integrate. If you're using it to escape, then you're not actually dealing with life in the present moment. That's why we may fantasize about one day I'll go there, because it's kind of like a fantasy, because we're looking at, there's a more positive aspect out there rather than actually looking at the positive aspect of being in this reality now. Do you see what I'm saying? Because how do we know? Whatever's fantasy we have out there and we say it's only going to be good, it can't be true. But it's a story we're telling ourselves because it's like you yourself, how you are in your life, you probably feel like, oh, God, I'm tired of myself in this life in the regards to trying to control everything, and I need to keep practicing to let go. How about I just don't ever have to do that again? And I get it, because myself, obviously that comes up, and I think every human being has that. But to think that we'll never have that.
No, not at all. Not at all. I love being in my current situation in terms of where I am in terms of yoga.
Yeah.
Because what I'm learning is the best I can do is be compassionate. I have random people who come and talk to me. It's just through a simple hello, how are you? A conversation opens up. And it's always, majority of the time, it's deep, meaningful conversations. And I love those. You meet a complete random stranger and you have this deep conversation and you walk away like, oh, I didn't know that. I've learned something new today. And that's what I love about being where I am at the moment. I love my yoga practice, which is rarely on the mat these days. It's all outside of the mat. It's all about, from me waking up in the morning, being conscious about my first breath, to going to bed, being conscious about that last breath that I'm taking consciously. But the idea still is there will be a time when I've experienced all of this, I experience the inner world. The reason why I say that is I follow the yoga of Patanjali, this amazing sage who lived around 400 AD. And he wrote kind of the instruction on what yoga is about. So modern yoga follows on from that. And there are 8 limbs in yoga, right? And so the first one is niyama, which is how you behave in the outside world. The yama is how you behave in the inside world. Then there's asanas, your physical postures, which you practice to keep this body pure and fit, and so that it's able to sit for meditation. And then there's pranayama, learning to breathe. And then finally, the 5th limb is pratyahara. Pratyahara is learning to close the senses, and it's that bridge between the outer world to the inner world. Once you've learned to acknowledge that you are operating because of your senses, once you've understood that what you see is not reality, then you start delving into dharana, which is, okay, I'm now able to concentrate. Then it moves to dhyana, where I'm learning to concentrate without any breakage in my meditation. And then samadhi is the ultimate union to the spirit, to whatever it may mean to you. So I forgot the point of why I was mentioning that. But okay, yes, so the whole cave thing. So Hatha Yoga is what I practice. And there's a text, Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And it talks about, okay, if you want to really now start practicing yoga, these are the requirements. And one of them is you go and live in a place that's governed well, where there's no crime, there's no violence, everything is running peacefully, and you live in a room which is a certain size. That's how far it goes. And then it's just you. And then you are really able to switch off and delve into the inner world completely without being interrupted.
Okay. Funny, because most of the interruption comes from ourselves anyway. But you know what? You know, I'm seeing a pattern, a little pattern, if I don't mind sharing.
Go on.
Because when you were in the corporate world, you then found yoga, and then you went into yoga, and then it was just yoga. You didn't, and you said it before, if I'd learned to integrate them. So now it's yoga you're in, and now there's the cave. You see, like the yoga's now the corporate world, and the cave is like the yoga world. What if you integrated it together rather than waiting for that one day till you're ready? Because that idea of when I'm ready, again, is like when you came to me and goes, I want to do the meditation, but I don't think I'm ready yet. So then you're putting this expectation of yourself going, I'm not ready yet. So you affirm to the universe, you're not ready yet, because I'm not like those people back in 400 AD, because they're the masters. When really they are us. They're just, they're the shoulders for us to climb on.
Yes.
For us to learn from, not to get to where they were, but to actually transcend that and learn from it now, not putting it to some one day place that you seem to go to. Because when you interact with people, you have a certain energy about you that really is beautiful to see, and how you are is lovely. When you do the yoga classes, people really feel that. When I did a yoga class with you, I really appreciated your love for it. Now, if you're in a cave, you won't be able to do that anymore, because and for you it'd be like, well, it's going to be bliss for me. But I feel like, you know what, you haven't done it before, you wouldn't know.
Yes.
And I'm sure it won't be so blissful when suddenly you're there going, oh my God, it's not like what they said in the books. So it's like, well, why wait for that moment where you feel like, one day, sometime in the future, when, like Dubai, you said it yourself, room, no crime. Here you are in Al Barari with security all around. I mean, it's the most secure place you're going to find on the planet, probably. You have a room if your husband's not there. You already have it. It's just a matter of perspective. You just go, oh, actually, it's right here. So what am I actually avoiding when it's actually here, rather than putting it off one day? Because it feels like you're putting the limitations to not then actually, when you actually have it right now, and go, no, I'm putting it off because maybe I'm not like these people. When in fact, I think what you recognize in them is actually you recognizing yourself, but actually confronting how big you are and how powerful you actually are may be quite daunting. And so putting it off may be a little bit easier than actually going, woof, what if I am that big? What if what I respect and admire is actually me?
But isn't that the ego talking?
Well, it doesn't matter about ego. If you're looking in your lower self and you're in your idiot self, then we do have the lower ego that is reactive. But then we have the true ego, which is our telos, our higher self. I'm reading Marcus Aurelius at the moment, and he calls it there's a word, Shade will do a magic, put it there, Liegos. Anyway, there's another word, but basically our higher selves, and it's called the true ego, because we're not going to get rid of our ego. Our ego and there's no wrong or right, remember? It's a judgment call. So this idea that somehow, I'm going to be gone now, well, the more we focus on that, the more we keep that in our lives. You see what I mean? So when you confront that, you actually have that within you. There's nothing to escape from, because anything that we're trying to escape from, we deem as wrong about ourselves. Is this an aspect of ourselves we have yet to love?
But I recognize that I'm not ready to just drop everything and go and find a cave. And
Never said to go to a cave yet. They said your room. You said the hatha yoga.
Yes.
You have a room.
Exactly.
There's not like the crime is not here. Everything you described, you already have.
Absolutely. So when I read this, I was like, oh, this is really interesting because I am living in a country that's peaceful, that's governed properly. I am living in a place that's secure. Absolutely, Alex. I am living in kind of a forest because the forest is accessible anytime I want. So all those parameters are there. So what can I do to still keep this practice going in this environment? And that's what I absolutely love, because I love that I recognize that it's not, okay, I'm going to put things on hold. I'm going to continue living the way I do because in 30, 20, whatever years' time, I know I'll go to a cave. No. It's about implementing everything I'm learning, everything I've learned right now. And that's what yoga is to me. It's living it on a day-to-day basis. But it's also important for me to learn from others. It's also important for me to know that I'm not getting carried away, because it can be dangerous. I've seen it. I've seen the ego in the yoga world. As teachers, we go through a typical journey, okay? We start doing yoga. We realize we're good at it. If we've been dancers in the past, then we have all that flexibility. We can do these amazing postures. And then you kind of look at the style of a yoga teacher and think, oh, I could do this. I could go and teach others and make an income from it. So you go and enroll in your first 200 hours teacher training course. You do your course, whether it's over 6 months or 3 weeks. You get your certificate from Yoga Alliance and you're sent out there to teach. But you're dealing with souls, right? The minute you roll out your mat and you start teaching, something happens psychologically to those students, and they'll come to you for questions, for answers. Are you equipped enough to deal with those? I wasn't. Anyway, then you realize other teachers have got 500 hours. So you go and do your second yoga course, and they're on. Then you realize teachers are now not just teaching yoga, they're doing sound healing, they're doing Kundalini awakening, Reiki. Maybe I should go and learn these things as well, because that's what being a yoga teacher is about. Fine, I go and do that. And I've done all this. And then you realize, okay, I need to do more. I start running retreats. I start running my teacher training courses. I start running workshops. And I realized I was falling into that pattern. Again, like that kind of corporate pattern where I'm climbing the ladder of a yoga teacher. And I had an interesting experience within the yoga world, and I thought, okay, I took a huge step back and just said, enough is enough. And that's when I met you as well, because I was very close to saying, I'm not teaching anymore. And then you sent me a message, you were on holiday, and said, hey, want to start some yoga classes? Are you interested?
Yo,
yeah,
what's up?
Yeah, that's just when I was going to think, oh, I'm done teaching, And it's like, okay, he sounds interesting. And for me, it's meeting people who are genuinely interested in it, because that's where my passion is, to teach what I've learned and to keep learning about it. I keep on repeating it. But it's become such a daily tool for me. I breathe it, I think it, I speak it. And I also always have to keep my ego in check, because, like I said, Alex, I don't know enough about it. I'm still learning.
I love that absolutely, you're a student. Absolutely. And this is why I'm still learning everything I possibly can about everything. I think once you get to the place of, I found the truth, I've said it before, those who said they found the truth run from, and those who are still seeking it run towards, What is it that made you nearly give up on yoga and run for the caves?
Still not ready to run to the caves. So what I meant by giving up is just teaching it, right? It was never about, I'm going to close all my books, I'm going to stop meditating, I'm going to stop my practice. No. That's never been.
But why teaching? What was that? Was it that the...
Many things.
Okay.
just the way it's become. Modern yoga is very, very, very different from traditional yoga. I look back at my teacher training courses and what we were taught, and I'm still very logical. I'm a logical person as well. I like facts. I like science. And what I've realized, a lot of that information was not correct. It's so if you're going to teach me something, make sure it's correct. I'll give you an example. Typically, these days on teacher training courses, the subject of where did modern yoga start? Oh, it started in the West when Swami Vivekananda was invited to a conference in Chicago, and he spoke about yoga, and that's where it all expanded from. No. Yoga started way before that through the Swami circuit, and I'm not going to go into it, but it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that about it. And then also, the different types of yoga, whether you're practicing Ashtanga or Vinyasa, you're led to believe that this is all ancient. It's not. It's modern yoga. It started in the last 2 centuries. It's like, no, if I want to learn about this, I'm going to do it properly. And the competition, Alex, because the world is churning out yoga teachers. It's getting not out of control, but it's just churning out so many yoga teachers every year. It's a $1 billion industry. Lululemon has become successful because of it. Nothing wrong with it, okay? But to me, it's just a bit. I feel a little bit heartbroken because students are not informed about what yoga really is. It's not about can you reach your toes. It's not about can you do these beautiful back bends. To me, it's about sitting down, having the ability to just close your eyes and find that stillness and connection. We are running around from one place to the other. We're breathing just into our chest, towards our shoulders, day in, day out. And we're losing connection to each other. We know when you're sitting with friends and you're having a chat, how often does somebody pick up the phone and just check in on the messages or whatever, and you're still talking to them? You've lost that connection. The minute you pick up that phone, you've lost that connection. Why are we doing this? Why can we not have this beautiful conversation we're having? Because it could lead to somewhere amazing.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying. Now, if I bring in the universal law that, the master lives in a world of transformation and everybody else lives in the illusion of loss and gain. Now, I never thought about it before I've heard about Simon Sinek going, when you pick up your phone, you're making the phone more important than the other person. But at the same time, just playing on the other side here, if I pick up my phone and I break the connection with you, I'm still connecting with something else. So nothing's lost, it's just the form's changed. But the other person who's not holding the phone maybe feel there's not a connection anymore, but the person holding the phone is now connecting with somebody else. And it seems like, this new yoga phase that's coming up is affecting you on a level that maybe not affecting anybody else as
Possibly.
much. So I guess it's identifying why it affects you to feel that somehow there's a disconnection, because really they are connecting at the capacity that they're able to connect at. So what does it really come down to? If they're getting the connection they're getting with new yoga teachers, what was your fantasy? Because a heartbreak is ultimately a fantasy we live in. Then suddenly the bubble bursts and we go, oh, I'm heartbroken. Because that's what a heartbreak is. So what was the fantasy that was before that is now what you see is now?
So I wouldn't call it fantasy. Maybe the idea when I set out on teaching in groups, teaching in teacher training courses, was to create a community that's based on love, foremost love. a community that's based on being there for each other, a community that's based on learning from each other and helping each other, not just within the community, but even outside of the community. And I've seen it quickly turns into a money-orientated business. We all need to make money, Alex. We all need that to survive. We all need money to buy food, to have our shelter. But let's not forget the philosophy of yoga, of being there to just be a better human being, just to be a better human being towards each other, towards yourself, and supporting each other on their journey. That's what the vision was. And okay, I may not have got it from a wider range of within the yoga community, but I have it through my people. And I'm lucky I have my people. I'm lucky that when I leave from my house to come anywhere, whether it's a coffee shop, I meet people. And it's not just a quick hello. It's like, oh, hi, how are you? How's your day been? And there's that connection. I've met amazing people just here at the cafe. So my community doesn't need to be that wide yoga world. I can form it and it's fine.
So I guess it feels like then, because what I'm trying to understand that you were going in this, you had this idea.
Yes.
Let's say that the yoga, what you were building was about helping each other. It's about love.
Yes.
But because money got involved.
Yes.
How did that idea dissipate? What was it that actually happened? What is because ultimately it was a moment that you saw something and you may have judged it.
Yes.
And then that was it. What was that moment?
It was when very harsh words were exchanged, and the number one code of conduct in yoga is ahimsa, non-harming. So non-harming, traditionally, it's leading a vegetarian life. Okay, it's not harming sentient beings. And that's kind of that idea has evolved into not harming anyone physically or mentally or verbally. And I heard some very difficult words, difficult conversations I had to have, which with a prominent yoga teacher, okay? And I thought, okay, this person is coming from a different place. There's something going on in their life. That's why they are reacting this way. But also part of me understood that it's not acceptable to just sit there and take it. There's no point of me reacting in the same way. So I'm just going to retreat. I'm going to retreat, understand why this happened in the first place. And maybe it's one door shutting and maybe it's going to be another door opening. It took a long time. It took 1 year to get over it because it was very painful. It was somebody I cared for deeply, deeply. And it took a long time. And then more and more experiences started happening where I'm trying to engage with studios. I was asked by a manager, can you come and do 1 hour of breath work? I said, well, no, I'm not an expert on breath work. I understand pranayama. I cannot teach pranayama for an hour because I don't know what that's going to end up doing to students. And the response was, well, the demand is for breath work. It's like, I'm sorry. Alex, to me, the world is again driven by money. I see dog yoga. I was on holiday and went for a walk, and there was a message about picking up your dog's poop, and the message read, do poop yoga. And that's really offensive to me because it's a philosophy. It's something that the sages have worked really, really hard on passing on to the next generations. And I don't want it to be called dog yoga. I don't want it to be called goat yoga or poop yoga.
This is where you're showing up again and trying to control. Because yoga, it seems like, it's going for its own evolution, where it can be used, and it's about mindfulness in everything that you said before, like meditation is not about just going to the cave, it's about being in the moment. So if it means, if we're picking up our own poop and we're calling it dog yoga and we're mindful about picking up poop, there's also the positive of it. If we hold on to the fact that people are just throwing it around and now it's connected to poop and things like that, like the rubbish we see, like the ignition. There's a sense of you wanting to control it, and rather than just letting it be. And it feels like there are aspects of yourself are showing up because there's because you're so passionate about yoga. And passion, if you look in the dictionary, is basically we're emotional, so we're distorting reality to not actually be what it is. We're distorting it in a way that is a fantasy. That's passion, because it's not love, but people get it mixed up when we're distorting our reality. And I say that because I can see that you care so much about it, and you're seeing it going away. It feels like that it's out of your control, that you kind of just want to throw your hands up and just go, you know what? And it hurts you because I guess this teacher who came into your life a year ago needed to say what he needed to say to break the idea about something.
Absolutely.
Because maybe you were living in a world where it was more positive and negative about yoga, but the reality comes along, everything to bring us back into equilibrium. We need to hear the things we need to hear. And if whatever we heard from it hurt, it's because it's an aspect of ourselves that we actually need to put the light in. So I guess when we're looking at the world of yoga, because I know it's something you care about so much, when we care too much and we're too attached to it, it then hurts when we see things are done to it that we feel like it shouldn't be done.
Yeah, okay. So going back to this community, right? You as a teacher, I'm giving you a scenario. As a teacher, you're running a teacher training course, and the idea is at the end of the course, your students will eventually become teachers. So on a course, you are there not to just learn about the asanas, the postures. You're also there to learn about the background of yoga. And like I said, one of the requirements is to practice ahimsa, non-violence. And you establish the foundation of your course based on that. The majority of students, I'd say 80%, are females. And it's a beautiful start, actually. Typically, on your first day of your course, you sit there and you talk about your background, your experience. And it's a vulnerable moment as well, because they might not know each other. And you're asking them to open up. So it's really vulnerable. And as a teacher, whether you're teaching a course, a yoga course, whether you're teaching art, English, you have been given responsibility to look after your students. So there's all, that's been established. You are in a circle that's protective, where there's going to be compassion and love. And as the course goes on, you realize the teacher is not portraying what the teachings say, like going in the opposite direction, whether, and there's so many case studies done, Alex, where teachers have turned abusive, emotionally and unfortunately physically. And that's when I've studied these and I'm thinking, what happened? Because some of the teachers I've known who have been amazing human beings, and I'm thinking, what happened to change that? It's the ego. That's what I'm afraid of. It's like, I never want my ego to get too big.
This is what I'm noticing. I think it's trusting yourself, because you're seeing all these people, and I think there's a judgment that comes in going, the ego's showing up. And there's a judgment of the ego, which is ultimately judgment of ourselves. And what these people are going through, their journey of actually going for it, to confront their ego and go through the healing process they need to, them and the students. Everything's within divine timing. Everything is divine, So whatever the student and teacher are going through, they're needing to go through.
Yes.
Somebody gets hit. Why are they attracting somebody who's hitting them? Their parent-child relationship. And ultimately it's power, isn't it? It's can you trust yourself with power, Binita? That's what it comes down to, because you're looking at all these teachers and there's a part of you that maybe a little bit like, I also want that, but I'm judging them for having it and not being able to use it, because maybe I'm also judging myself that I've had power and I've been that way as well, and I felt shame, but I haven't actually gone back to that moment, maybe as a project manager, whenever it was, that I was that way, and I'm scared of being that person again, because I've maybe kept it aside and I haven't loved that part of me. But at the end of the day, whatever it is that we see, whatever we judge in somebody else, we have to look at ourselves and go, okay, where have I done that myself?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so if I've done that myself, maybe in the corporate world, because I'm only, okay, what was the positive of that moment as well?
Sure.
All right, so if I look at the positive and balance it out, you can't have one without the other. Let's transcend that moment so it doesn't have to keep repeating itself. Because if I'm looking at it, every person, and I'm looking at, because it's showing up to teach me. Okay, so then I don't need to kind of go, let me go to the cave, or let me go this, because it's like before. You retreated for a year when somebody said something to you. And so it's like, it's all for you. It's your reality that you created. And I think it's about trusting yourself that if you did decide to really step into this, can you trust yourself to actually be the teacher who's doing the teaching of what has been learnt over those 1,000 years? Can you be the person who holds that power and actually embody the message? And I'm not sure if you trust yourself to be able to do that based on all the people you've seen. But rather than waiting for them to show you, why don't you show you?
Yeah.
Why don't you step into that role and actually be an example rather than waiting for somebody to show you? And I think it's just a matter of you actually stepping into your power and going, can I trust myself? And if I do fall over a few times because I'm learning, because maybe I've judged others.
Yes.
In fact, because I recognize it in myself, because what I notice when you judge it, it sticks. And I've said things, and then suddenly I've lived that life and I'm like, oh dear. Yep, I am that person. How did that happen? What just happened? And there is that fear, but you know what? It's not a bad thing.
No.
It's just a matter of our evolution. But we know that we're aware enough and we have the tools around us that if that does happen, you're not going to abandon yourself.
Never.
That you're actually going to be with you, because that's ultimately what it is, that you're not going to abandon yourself.
No.
That you're going to be there through the thick and thin of it, because that's how you're going to be an example to all these other teachers, because you're going to step into that field and go, right, I'm going to step up, and what I'm feeling like everybody else isn't doing, it's time for me to pick up that rubbish that I see and actually be that.
Yeah.
And not wait for anybody else and why are they not doing what they're doing? Because when you're looking at everybody else and you're not actually going like this, you're actually giving up all your power and you're giving it to everybody else. And I think that's what it comes down to, Binita. You just going, you know what? No more of this.
Well, the funny thing is, when I took that 1-year retreat, I sat in my office and I wrote my own yoga course book. I think it's 50 pages. And I look back and I think, wow, how did I do that? But I remember just sitting there and just words just pouring out. And I wrote this book. And I felt incredible for having written it. And I know what your next question is going to be. What did you do with it?
No, my next question is not about how, why?
Because what you said, it's about putting what I feel is right out there.
When you say right, because that means there's a judgment that other people are wrong.
Yeah.
Now, when you step out into the world, if you're going in there saying, I'm right, you're going to attract the other side of it. And that might be quite scary. But if you look at what they've done and go, okay, where was it right so I can balance out the right and wrong and just see it as love?
Yeah.
Because that's yoga, it's love. But if I'm looking at somebody else going, that's wrong, then that's not love. Then I'm not actually the teacher who's actually embodying what yoga is. And I think that's the judgment of yourself going, if I'm not loving what they do and I'm judging it, then I'm not the yoga that I'm judging them for.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that is what they're showing me, that I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Which you can be, because it just means we're recognizing where they've showed up, that you need to show up in your own life.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's where I've also done it. No one's wrong, no one's right. How do I go to like your essay or your course that you've written? How do you then integrate all of those different perspectives to create something that's whole rather than one-sided, like mine's right and they're wrong?
Absolutely.
How do you integrate it all and go, right, here's something that I feel is incorporating it all that brings people into alignment? And I think you've already been working on that.
Yes.
Could you then step out into the world with what you've got and start teaching it?
I mean, I did teach it. And although the words were coming from me, from my heart, like I said, I'm quite logical. So I'd spent a lot of time doing research. And it's just researching the basic things. Like, okay, when we talk about the benefits of pranayama, for example, what is there any science behind it? Because there will be students out there like me who want to know some of the facts. So that's what I spent a lot of time doing, Alex, just putting some kind of evidence. And the idea is, I have this book. It's backed up with factual information. But then when I teach it, it comes from me because I know it inside out. And I launched the course. I think I've taught, and I was quite selective who I teach this course to. And it was an incredible journey. And I've always said when I hand over the manual that this is a manual that will keep on getting updated because I'm still finding out information that's changed. That's not correct. So I keep on updating that. But going back to power, you said, to be able to go out there and start running my own courses. Power comes with great responsibility, Alex. Great, great responsibility, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to handle that big responsibility. I'm doing it one step at a time. I'm not launching myself out there to the world saying, hey, I'm running these teacher training courses. What's been working for me is having these random conversations. It's having people come up to me and say, oh, I want to do yoga. What do you recommend? And through that, it could be 2-3 things. It could be somebody decides it's not their journey. It could be somebody who wants to try it out and goes to a studio and does the postural yoga side of it. It could be somebody who has experienced postural yoga and want to know why does it make them feel that way. And that's when we start this course. Most of the time, it's on a one-to-one basis. And that's what I'm enjoying, that kind of intimate way of teaching rather than teaching 20 students at a time.
I think it's beautiful, and like the fact you're starting it is, incredible because putting yourself out there is not easy.
No.
Do you do that? But going to, and I'm gonna, me, I'm gonna have to touch on the whole ready thing. When you say you're not ready, you just said you taught some people.
Yes.
And it's a manual that's going to keep on expanding. If the manual keeps on growing, because like when I'm learning, I mentioned Dr. John DiMartini before, his manual keeps growing year after year. He teaches what it is, and as he teaches it, he's learning it.
Yes.
So if you're doing something where maybe every year or twice a year, whatever it is that you're teaching your manual, and which you get to learn from and other students get to listen from, what is it about that makes you think you're not ready?
I'm not ready to do it in the conventional way, where you advertise you're running a class and then you hire a venue and your students come either the weekends or whatever days you've assigned. I want to do it organically, Alex.
Is it a theory? Or do you put because it sounds like your manual's theory more than, say, the physical. And I feel like there's enough physical out there,
Yes.
but your main thing, and I can feel it's like teaching the philosophy of it.
Yes.
But it feels like you've also put this idea in your head that it has to be a certain way. What if you went, well, let's say rather than ready to do it in that way of events and hiring something, I get it. There's a certain responsibility of, some people don't show up, they're not taking it serious. Whatever you're opening yourself up, I get that. What if you instead then said, well, let's find a way that works for you, in a way that works within your life.
Yes.
Let's say, for example, I don't know how long this would take teacher's manual. For example, he taught 100 hours in 1 week. I don't know if your manual's 100 hours. Maybe it's a bit less. Maybe it's a 3-day online course where you're teaching it online because it's not moving. So you don't have to hire any venue.
Yeah.
You can have people from all around the world, 10, 20, 30, 50 people could all be listening while you're putting your manual together and just teaching them through it. You'll stumble, you maybe do this, but as you get more comfortable and these people are learning about the philosophy of yoga, so as you said it yourself, there's so many yoga teachers showing up, but nobody's maybe teaching the philosophy in the way you want to.
Yeah.
And rather than going, they're not doing it, there's a part of you going, well, the feeling I may be feeling frustrated is because I am not showing up. This is my time. Yeah, I'm waiting because look at the venue here. And well, I know what that's like last time I did it. When actually you can go, what if I just put it online? Here we are on a podcast right now. Let's say somebody goes, I want to learn about it, but you're not ready yet, Binita? But I would love to learn about it because I'm doing yoga and I would like to understand it. Because once I understand the philosophy of it, I will then, when I show up for my yoga class, I'll be more present because suddenly I respect it that much more.
Oh, Alex,
and that's
incredible.
what it comes down. But then if you're not going out there and putting it out there, how can you then say, oh, you know, who are you waiting for?
The student comes to the teacher.
Well, only when the teacher is ready to teach. And then you have your manual.
This teacher is a bit selfish.
Well, you know what? It's okay to be selfish and not to put yourself in a position where you feel like you have to hire a venue and people have to come somewhere, when actually you could do it from the comfort of your cave, your makeshift cave, your laptop with your dog, and you're teaching the course maybe 5 hours a day for a week, or it's over. However way you structure it is up to you.
Yes.
And those students will show up once you've ready to structure it. It doesn't have to be in a way that you have to put all this responsibility. You can put it online. I mean, at the end of the day, people who are interested, are you going to say after this podcast they can't reach out? Or if they are interested, would you maybe put something together online? Because somebody might be listening to this in Turkey or Egypt or India, but they want to do the course. Would you be willing to teach this manual for those who are ready to learn?
Absolutely. If they are serious students, for sure. The word structure, that's what's got me into trouble in the past, Alex. And that's why I want to do it organically. So let's say, today's module is about history of yoga. I don't want it to be one way. Yes, I will tell you what I've learned, what I know, but then let's open it up for a discussion. We call it a sangha when you form a community. So after that, the lecturing is done. It's like, okay, so Alex, what do you think? What do you know? It's like, let's open it up because
a forum.
What you know is something that others didn't know.
But you can. Okay, so what I'm
You're
sorry,
frustrated
but
with me.
I'm not frustrated. I'm just like, hello, whatever you want it to be, you create.
Yes.
So let's say right now that your course, I don't know, say if it's 10 chapters.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. One chapter for every 2 days, or one chapter a week. I don't know. And you go to the students. By the way, it's Monday to Friday.
Yes.
Let's say, and it's going to be morning to night. And we're going to do the first half of this, and the next half is going to be open to conversation. Because through these conversations, you may be writing down and learning something about your work because of the conversation. That is part of what the students are paying for. They don't know. They're just waiting for you to show them what the structure is. They just show up and pay and then go, well, I'm part of it. And you can be strict going, if you're paying X amount, you need to show up for the course as well as the forum and so forth. I just finished in the Oxford Philosophy of Religion. I'm just doing the Dr. John DiMartini. They're very different in their formats.
Yeah.
But I took it seriously enough to show up.
Yes.
Because I paid money.
Yes.
But not only the paying the money, it's because it's my time.
Exactly.
So it's up to the student to show up, depending on what you decide to make, what you think this is worth.
Yes.
And when you realize that, it's worth this, then those students will also agree it's worth that. And then it'll be an energy exchange.
Yeah.
It's just dependent on what you feel it's worth.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what you're struggling with because it's the whole money and power thing. And it's that dynamic. But you're only going to know when you put it out there.
Try it out.
And I think this is a perfect time. You just broadcasted that you're going to be doing it. And, and there's students who are going to be, hearing this and want to learn about the philosophy of it. Like you've just done all this work and your frustration has obviously led to this, manuscript that thankfully all these
not
people...
Not from frustration, that manual was...
not from frustration, but it's also from seeing things that you go, you know what? They're missing something. Here is that's what I mean. And it's okay to feel a drive. That's why it was birthed, because you saw a void in the industry that you went, this is what's missing.
Yes.
But then you can't then go to people, why do they keep doing that? When you're not even presenting it to the world for them to, they don't know what they're missing. They don't know. And in fact, if once they hear it, then suddenly their yoga practice becomes that much more grounded, that much more enriched.
Meaningful. Yes.
but they don't know until you show up and show them how meaningful it is. So all these thousands of students, you don't need to be another yoga teacher. I feel like your gift really is more in the theory, in regards to that's where your passion really lies. I think when you when you're teaching yoga, you enjoy it, but your real thing you really want to get into is the philosophy. But
that comes from the heart. That's the weird thing. It's combining that logical side of me, but knowing that everything that I say when I'm teaching a class, Alex, yes, I plan my class, but I'm a different person when I'm teaching it. I cannot describe it to you except to say it just comes from a deep place of love, because when you see a student on their mat, there's such compassion for them, so much love. And I just feel, isn't that where we all need to start off from, with that place of love and compassion?
And how can you not trust yourself then as a teacher when you say it from that place? That show them, give them the opportunity, give yourself that opportunity, and just go, I'm not going to wait anymore. Why am I holding it off? This is what you love to do. Why? No wonder there's a part of you trying to escape somewhere, because you're not doing actually what it is you love, because you're saying to yourself, I'm not ready. Could you put these conditions on it? But in fact, you very much are. And it seems like the world needs it within the yoga industry.
Yes.
To understand that depth. And then I think that's why when you see these things, the poop yoga and things like that, that's what may frustrate you, because it's just reminding you of what you are not giving to the world yet, which you're holding. And you're holding this wealth of information, this knowledge. And so all these reminders are just edging you to share. And then it's like, oh, okay, now it's out there. And now they'll teach it and they'll teach it. And then suddenly this wealth of knowledge, and within the yoga industry, people are taking it seriously. And then you've done your part rather than,
just being frustrated
with
it.
And going, oh, if somebody just picks up that thing, why they do this? Because it's a part of you just basically just saying, you know what, once you show up, then suddenly all those things will disappear, because it won't be in your viewpoint anymore to point you towards you taking action. That's all this universe is there to do.
And being a yoga teacher comes with great responsibility too, Alex. And it was just a thought that occurred to me. Like I said, when you've got your certificate, which by the way means nothing, Yoga Alliance put their stamp on it, fine, but were they there to see that was the syllabus covered? Were they there to check the examinations? No. So you get your certificate, you walk out and you start teaching. And that comes with a lot of responsibility.
Well,
and are you ready for it? That's what I want to
emphasize.
Emphasize.
Are you ready for it though?
I am.
Oh, you're going to do it now. High five. That's what we like to see, a birth of something here. And, this is why you came on. This is what, to overcome that and go, you know what, there's a need for it. And that's something when you mentioned before, and we've kind of tied up there, is the idea that there's a need. And then you linked it up, like, for example, can you teach people to breathe? And you're like, I don't want to teach people to breathe, but there's a need for it. And then you tied that need into about money. But if there's a need for that, then you go where the need is. It's not bad or good. It's just somebody seeing a need and going, well, I'll fit it because it does make my money. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But that's not what you want to do. In fact, you're holding on to the very thing that you can see is needed. And by not giving it, and then maybe, the whole money exchange thing and whatever judgment comes up, it's just withholding something within yourself, when actually I think you have this potential gift that is missing within the yoga community. I don't need to beat it to death. I think we've all got the point. It's glad to see that you're here to show the yoga community an aspect of itself that maybe nobody else was as keen to do, and that you're willing to take on, because it just happens to be you came from a corporate world that happens to be that way you think. Within the yoga world comes to a beautiful synergy.
Yes.
So it's going to be awesome to see it all unfold.
Let's see. I mean, I had an interesting conversation with somebody. So it goes back to breathing. And he said to me, I don't know how to breathe. I'm not doing it properly. I do need to learn. And the next minute, that person lit a cigarette. And I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, you're not going to be a serious student, so I'm not even going to bother offering you my services. And then the second thought in my head was like, well, you need to just get rid of the smoking habit to even be able to breathe properly. And I was like, just smile. Because Alex, I just cannot be bothered to take on that conversation because I become so passionate about it. And then it's like you don't want to offend either. You don't want to come across as somebody who knows a lot more than you.
Yeah.
And I just back out. It's like, okay, when that person is really serious about it, they will come back again.
Choose your spiritual
It's fine.
battles.
Exactly.
The final question I have is, if your life was a movie, what would it be?
It would be to live in the wilderness of Africa and to do everything I can to protect the wildlife there. It's my passion. It's just something I'm deeply connected to. Just to those amazing animals who are suffering because of human beings. Just being out there.
Okay. I think that wraps up the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching in, and everybody at the New Earth Studios and the cafe too.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Alex.
Binita.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see this course online now. Whoa, yeah. Guys, if you're interested in finding out details, you know where to find us.
Yes.
All right. Much love. We vibe when you subscribe.